Um, we know that early childhood education is a challenge for families. Sometimes it's hard to find a location that it serves your family well. It can be very expensive. We also know how important quality is, giving kids a strong start so that they can be ahead as they enter their school years. This is a very important bill that moves forward affordable early childhood education in Colorado by investing close to $400 million in strengthening the early childhood workforce, making sure our early childhood professionals are well trained to help our kids, funding for on site childcare. Many larger employers and office buildings are able to offer on site, which means parents can visit during lunch hour and make it easier to pick up their kids after work. Resources to infant and toddler care, family child care homes, children with special needs, under-resourced families. And of course, this legislation will also help pave the way to enact the will of over 2/3 of Colorado voters who voted for universal preschool starting in 2023. And I want to thank the bipartisan bill sponsors, Senator Story, Senator Sonnenberg, Representative Tipper, Representative Van Beber, for leading this effort, as well as the Colorado Department of Human Services Executive Director Michelle Barnes for her great leadership on this historic legislation, which will help expand quality child care in Colorado and make child care more affordable for families across our state. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator Tammy Story.
Thank you so much, Governor, and it is my pleasure, absolutely, to have carried this bill in the Senate, Senate Bill 236, that is focused on increasing capacity for childcare and also early education. You know, pre-COVID, we had some capacity issues here in Colorado anyway. There just weren't enough spaces for all the need that was there. But during COVID, it became even more exacerbated because many of those who worked in the workforce lost their jobs, or child care centers had to reduce their capacity, or the workforce had to be at home with their own children who were then being educated at home doing remote learning. So we are working to build that back up with this bill, and there are 4 grant programs within this bill. One is funded by general fund, the other 3 are funded by federal funds that are not stimulus or relief funds, but instead come from the federal child care development funds that are specifically allocated for child care. So in the general fund realm, we have an employer-based child care facility grant program to help institute additional child care centers that are tied to employer places of business, and to help out the employees that are working there and have a place where they can bring their child and still go to work and get back into the workforce. And then the other 3 programs, they are specifically allocated for child care. There's the recruitment and retention grant program that is really working to build up that workforce again and provide additional training and education through apprenticeship programs and other training opportunities. There's also the teacher salary grant program to provide additional assistance and additional salary for teachers and assistant teachers also, because their wages generally are pretty low. And the last one is the Circle grant program, and that encourages implementation to utilize innovative solutions to really increase accessibility and equity throughout the child care system, especially for infants and toddlers. And so again, I am just so grateful to have the opportunity to be here for the bill signing with the governor, and really look forward to watching this program and this funding really grow child care centers across our state.
Representative Van Beber.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the senators who helped carry this extremely important bill, and to Representative Tipper, who helped me co-sponsor this bill, and I hopefully supported her in co-sponsoring this bill in the House of Representatives. As we know, House Bill 236 provides much needed additional early childhood care for the youth around Colorado. It goes without saying that early childhood care is truly the most impactful kind of care, and it's the most impactful time of life for Colorado youth. Quality care for our children is truly an investment in our future. And whether it's the early care and education recruitment and retention program, which not only furthers quality, but the quantity of childcare that we have here in Colorado, that is one especially important portion of the grant process. And when it comes to the Early Childhood Council portion of the grant process, we're meeting the local needs of Coloradoans as they pursue additional childcare options that were taken from them during the time of COVID. And when it comes to, of course, that teacher salary grant program, we're always looking to ensure that the people who have some of the most important jobs in a child's life, nurturing them, teaching them, and helping them become a wonderful part of the future of Colorado, we want to ensure that those folks are amply taken care of when it comes to their employment in this industry. And as far as the early childhood mental health program portion, as childcare options have become almost impossible to procure during COVID, and as this unmet need is very slow to return, this grant is an extremely advantageous source of support, which increases, of course, that social interaction for our youth. It's an ever-growing need for our children, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I thank you all for being here, and more importantly, I thank the governor for making sure that we're signing this into law so that our children have a future here in Colorado. Thank you.
Representative Ticker.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership, not just on this bill, but all things early education. When I look behind us at these 4 kiddos, this is the reason we do this. I mean, this is life-changing policy that we were able to pass this legislation and have signed into law. I'm a new mother of a 8.5, almost 9-month-old baby, and I can tell you that just today, I almost wasn't able to come here because of childcare issues. So childcare issues are just so near and dear to me, and when we look at what has happened, not just in COVID times, but before, we know that over the course of my generation, the cost of childcare has gone up almost 700%. And it's not to say that these are massive profit generating centers, not at all. It's expensive to run a run childcare center. So we know that we need to make big investments. I am so proud to be a part of this bill and to see Colorado lead really across the country in some really innovative strategies and thoughtfulness. So I am grateful to be here as a mother, as a legislator, as a Coloradan, and as someone who believes that these kiddos are absolutely worth the investment that we just made here in Colorado. Thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you. And in a moment, I'm going to introduce our Director of CDHS, Michelle Barnes. But, to get where we are today took a lot of work from outside stakeholders. And I want to take a moment to extend my appreciation to folks at CDHS, Mary Alice Cohen, Kevin Neiman, Emily Hansen, Grace Eckel. From my office, Scott Gerginski and Allie Kimmel. Bill Yeager and Riley Kitts from the Colorado Children's Campaign. Nicole Reel from EPIC. Suzanne Banning from Florence Crittenden. Allison Friedman Phillips from the Women's Foundation of Colorado, Roseanne Evans from Evans Early Childhood Center, Paula Schriefer from the Spring Institute and Katira Am, and Susan Steele from the Buell Foundation. There are such great partners coming together with our legislators, with our office, around early childhood education in Colorado, and really transforming Colorado into the best place to have kids and raise a family, where your kids get a strong start and you can afford to work and live. And that's what today's bill is an important step towards accomplishing. With that, I'll turn it over to Michelle Barnes.
Thank you, Governor. As you know, last year was a wake-up call on how important yet fragile our childcare sector is. Without convenient and affordable quality childcare, families, particularly women, will continue to leave the workforce, which cripples our economic recovery. The signing of this bill today marks the creation of an exciting set of programs that will strengthen and grow the childcare sector in Colorado. It helps families get safe, affordable, and accessible high-quality learning to help children in their earliest years. It also helps working families. And I have to say, today is a big darn deal. This bill is significant and meaningful. Senate Bill 236 will help employers open child care facilities on or near their work sites. It will help child care providers pay for education to qualify for child care careers. It'll help those workers stay in those careers long term. It creates, as stated, an innovative grant program to award funds to our child care providers and organizations to help with our toughest child care challenges. And near and dear to my heart, It also supports the mental well-being of children and child care providers and keeps funding directly to child care providers so they can keep their doors open so we can have a Colorado for all. While the pandemic put additional strain on our sector, SB 236 marks an exciting moment to revitalize the sector long into the future and ensure the next gen of Coloradans have an exceptional start in life. And Governor, with your permission, I think we should have the children surround you as you sign this.
Let's do it. You kids want to come up here and see how we make a law? And thanks to Tammy Hickey as well from Precious Angels. Ready? This is how we do it. So this is the final step in making a law. After I add my name to it, it becomes a law of Colorado. Or I could veto it.
Let's not do that.
So that's why. Do you guys know how to sign your names yet? You know how to put your name? Yeah, you do.
He does.
So you want to put your name below mine right there? Right there.
Ari can do it.
That's good. Very good.
Thank you for advocating.
Really good. Good. Signed by Jared Polis and Amari. Congratulations, Amari. What's that? Okay.
Thank you. Good job.
Sure.
There's one for you, and then Tammy, and then Bill. Well, I got one for you too. Where's Bill? Got a pen for you here. Signing pen from this. It's not every day we sign $400 million.
No, it's not.
And thank you all for the Precious Angels team. We just so appreciate all the work you do. What's your name? Say it again. Luella. Do you know how to sign? Luella, do you know how to sign your name yet, Luella? Would you like to put your name next to Amari's on the bill? Amari, your handwriting is really good.
I know.
That's right.
Piece of history right there.
Well, that's great. That's your pen there. So, congratulations. It's official. Great job. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
It's my favorite bill signing. It's gotta be the best thing I've ever done.
Yes.
Here we go.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. This the second bill is about safety in early childhood. Thank you all for joining us. Okay. Representative Young, Representative Bozenecker, Senator Danielson, and Senator Pedersen. Who do we have with us here? Representative Young is Senator Danielson. Good. And Pedersen's out of time. Great. I heard, yes. Well, this is a more somber bill, but it's every bit as important. We need to make sure that our child care is safe and transparent, that we have enforcement of the laws that we do so that parents have the confidence they need when they're dropping kids off on the way to work, that their kids will be ready to go and healthy and happy at the end of the day. We are joined by two parents who had to go through what no parent should have to go through. The parents of Ellie Matthews, who lost their child in an unlicensed child care, and they've really turned that grief into being a force of change and a force of action, helping to pass this bill to make sure that other Colorado parents don't have to go through what they went through If we could just acknowledge Ellie's parents. Where are you? Yes.
All right.
Thank you. And also Ellie's sister, right? Sadie. Sadie. We acknowledge Sadie too. Thank you for turning your grief into action and sparing other parents what you went through. I also want to thank the bill sponsors, Senator Danielson, Senator Pedersen, Representative Young, and Representative Bozenecker. You know, the operator of the child care where Ellie was lost had been told repeatedly to shut down, but there was no enforcement mechanism, and there was no transparency for parents to even know about it. This legislation makes sure that there's a more effective relationship with law enforcement, specific penalties that parents deserve, information on illegal care providers that are operating without a license in violation of our laws to protect kids. To ensure that our children are being protected, CDHS will have full transparency and make sure that people know who's received a cease and desist order, the number of orders, make sure that information on injunctions against operating are fully available to the public, and illegal providers will now be convicted of criminal and civil penalties. Our state supports a wide range of healthy, safe child care centers and homes. License programs, license exempt and informal programs, families, friends, neighbor care. But we simply don't allow programs to operate if they are putting kids at risk. Our children are our future. This legislation is an important step towards ensuring the safety of every child in Colorado. I'm proud to turn it over to Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Governor Polis, and thank you to the Matthews family for being here today. My co-prime sponsor in the Senate, Brittany Pedersen, couldn't be here. She's out of town, but thanks to her as well. And I am joined by Representative Mary Young, who's come up from Weld County for the occasion. Thank you for everything you did to get the bill through. It was about this time last year, I think, that I got a phone call from a woman named Kelsey Matthews, who was asking for help, who had an idea and told me about the tragedy that her family had gone through. The unimaginable grief and pain that a parent must endure in a situation like Kelsey's to have lost a child is unthinkable, right? But instead of ending there and acknowledging the grief and pain, this woman and her family decided to take action, to do something about it, to help protect other children and prevent this kind of thing from happening to other families. It was such an honor to be approached by her and her family and to be able to get to work on a solution. She had a lot of great ideas. So as a result of her dedication and hard work, what we have now is stricter enforcement when an illegal child care facility is trying to operate outside the law, and also transparency. Part of the problem that Kelsey described to me was that she did a diligent job of researching where to place her kid for care, just like most of us do. But some of these folks who are operating illegal child care facilities are very good at manipulating families, very good at lying and cheating and deceiving people in order to stay in business. So what we've done is given parents some tools to see if they have indeed come into contact with someone who should not be providing child care at all, or who is doing so outside of the law. We provided that kind of transparency so that parents can see if they are looking at child care who is operating illegally, who has done something wrong and should not be taking care of children. We've also provided the enforcement that if they do that, they will not be able to do that anymore. And there again, I really have to thank Kelsey and her family, because literally was months of work with her on the phone trying to figure out how do we get this done in a way that benefits families. I also want to thank the department, because we worked with them to find a solution that they could implement and carry out. So, to me, this is just a really good example of one person's one person's strength and dedication to protecting other people's families and kids across the state, where she came up with an idea and we worked together in the legislature to see it through. And I just want to thank her so very, very much. It's been such an honor to be part of this.
Thank you, Senator
Representative
Danielson.
Young?
Yeah,
And
Representative Young.
I'd like to turn it over to Representative Mary Young.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Governor, for being here. I met Kelsey Matthews for the first time today, and I told her I drove from Weld County because it was so important for me to meet her in person. She has provided, as Senator Danielson said, provided the strength and was willing to be, she and her family have been brave and have shared their grief and loss in order to provide greater protection to families seeking child care in the state. And the work that they have done to create this bill will protect other children in Colorado. I'm happy to also announce we continue the work. I'm part of the Safe Child Care Task Force, and we will continue to, and that is with the department, and we will continue to move forward to guarantee the safety of children in child care in this state. And I want to thank Senator Danielson for including me in this bill, and once again, thank you to the Matthews family.
Michelle Barnes.
Every child deserves a safe, high-quality environment with resources that will help them to develop to their full potential. This bill ensures that families and parents have the tools they need to find that care. Senate Bill 21201 is part of a vital series of actions that the Colorado Department of Human Services is taking to increase community and parental education regarding what safe child care looks like, and to stop illegal, unlicensed child care providers who put children's safety at risk. All of us, parents, partners, child care providers, and community members play a very important role in keeping kids safe. I thank you all for your support of this bill, and I specifically want to thank the Matthews family for your advocacy on behalf of all kids in Colorado. And with that, would you mind joining the governor for the signature?
Well, and I also forgot to mention Governor Polis, because of their diligent work, and in honor of her memory, this new law is named the Ellie Matthews Act.
Let's make the Ellie Matthews Act the law. Ready, Sadie? It's official. It's a law of Colorado.